Well, hello, eighth grade. Welcome back to social studies. I hope that you were able to get through work packet 2. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go over what I have here for you. So, you should be turning to the page starting on President John Adams. So, first off, what we're going to do before we get into the next page is I'm going to read this verbally. If you can't, just follow along as I read, and then we'll kind of move on from there. All right. So, John Adams was born on October 30th, 1735, in Braintree, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston, where his father earned a living as a farmer and shoemaker. Adams attended local schools and graduated from Harvard College in 1755. He studied law and opened his law office in Boston in 1758. He defended the British soldiers who were involved in the Boston Massacre in 1770. Adams was a delegate to the First Continental Congress as well as the Second Continental Congress. He emerged as a leader of the independence movement and worked with Thomas Jefferson on the Declaration of Independence. In 1778, Adams traveled to France and the Netherlands to ask for their help in fighting the Revolutionary War against Britain. Adams was one of the negotiators of the Treaty of Paris that ended the Revolutionary War. Next, he served as America's first minister to Britain. Adams finally returned to the U.S. in 1788, and he served 2 terms as vice president under George Washington. Adams successfully ran for president in the election of 1796, winning just by 3 electoral votes. In those days, the presidential candidate was the second highest vote, but the second highest vote became vice president. Thomas Jefferson was Adams' vice president. This is the only time in American history that the president and the vice president belong to 2 different parties, 2 different political parties. Adams only interacted with Congress when he needed to pass or veto bills. The French Revolution impacted the young United States, and as a result, Adams increased the U.S. military and approved the Alien and Sedition Acts passed by Congress. These unpopular actions caused Adams to lose the election of 1800. In the presidential election of 1800, Adams ran for re-election against Jefferson and Aaron Burr. Jefferson and Burr both defeated Adams and received 73 electoral votes each. The election went to the House of Representatives, and Jefferson became president. Adams then retired from public office. He has spent a lifetime in government service, including a significant amount of time in Europe. Adams finally enjoyed time with his wife and family in Quincy, Massachusetts. Adams died on July 4th, 1826, the 15th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So now what we're going to do is go to the next page, which requires you to actually fill in a timeline. So what I like to do is start from the first year and kind of work my way down. So we are going to, first year that we're going to add here is 1735, which was his birth. All right. And then the next year we're going to add is 1770. Because, in 1770, he defended soldiers involved in the Boston Massacre as an attorney. All right. And then the next year that was posted in the reading was 1778. And this time, Adams had asked for help fighting the Revolutionary War against Britain. Then we go to 1788. This is where he served 2 terms as vice president under Washington. All right, and then, all right, he ran for president and he won. And then he also negotiated the Treaty of Paris, ending the Revolutionary War. Then the next year is 1800. He lost the election of 1800 due to the passage of the Alien and Sedition Acts and increasing the U.S. military. So, when you're president and you have these policies and procedures and you run for re-election, those policies become unpopular and you ultimately lose the election, just like John Adams did. Then also in 1800, another event occurred. He retired from public life. So as a result of losing the election, he ultimately retires. And then also he moves, once again in 1800, he moves to Quincy, Massachusetts with his family. And then at his death, 1826, he dies on July 4th, 1826, which also became the 15th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. You will learn a lot of founding fathers actually died on the birth of our country. So it's kind of ironic that happened, but it's very true to a lot of founding fathers that actually died on July 4th. All right, so let's go on to the next president. That is Thomas Jefferson. All right. So we all know a lot about Thomas Jefferson. We learned about him in the beginning of the school year. So I'm just going to read this brief article on him, and then we'll get into the next page, which was a graphic organizer. So let's get to that. So Thomas Jefferson was born April 13, 1743 in Virginia into a wealthy family. He was the third of 8 children. Jefferson was tutored at home and then attended William and Mary College in Virginia. He then studied law and opened his own successful law office. Soon he was a member of the Virginia House of Burgesses, the same as a House of Representatives, so kind of like a Congress or legislator. In 1772, he married Martha W. Skelton. Jefferson represented Virginia in the Second Continental Congress that met in 1775. In 1776, Jefferson wrote the draft of the Declaration of Independence, and on the 4th of July, 1776, the Second Continental Congress approved the document. Jefferson returned to Virginia and served as governor during the Revolutionary War. He planned to retire to his plantation in Monticello after being governor, but his wife died in 1782 and he lost his companion. In 1783, Jefferson was a representative of Virginia in the Articles of Confederation government. He is responsible for devising the system of currency for the United States. After the Revolutionary War, Jefferson was appointed to the minister to France. Next, President George Washington appointed Jefferson as the first Secretary of State. When Washington retired after 2 terms as president, Jefferson was a popular candidate and his followers formed the Democratic Republican Party. However, Adams won the electoral vote in the presidential election in 1796. In those days, the candidate with the second highest vote became vice president. Jefferson became vice president in 1800. In 1800, the presidential election went to the House of Representatives, and they finally elected Jefferson over Aaron Burr after 36 ballots. Jefferson is well known for the Louisiana Purchase, laid land bought from France that doubled the size of the United States. Lewis and Clark made their famous expedition to explore the vast new territory. In 1804, Jefferson was re-elected as president. However, events in Europe, particularly the war between Britain and France, influenced the young country of the United States. The U.S. wished to remain neutral and engage in trade in both Britain and France, but the seeds of the War of 1812 with Britain were being planted during Jefferson's presidency. Jefferson founded the University of Virginia after he left the presidency. He died on the 15th anniversary of the ratification of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th of 1826. So, let's get into the graphic organizer. And this graphic organizer is just asking you to outline some basic information on the President Thomas Jefferson. So let's get into that. So based on the article, we know he belonged to what? The Democratic Republican Party. So you should have this written here in this box here. The Democratic Republican Party. His hometown was Virginia. The time period covered was, I'm going to say from his birth to his death, was 1743 to 1826. So, some campaign promises. Based on what I read, there were none. So, major events during his presidency. Number one, the Louisiana Purchase. Major achievements. So, number one, he wrote the Declaration of Independence. He got the Louisiana Purchase. He founded the University of Virginia. And he started a system of currency. And also, he was the first Secretary of State. Now, his greatest challenges were the War of 1812, ratifying the Constitution, and I would say writing the Declaration of Independence based on what's in the article. So, that concludes this with John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. We will get into much more greater detail as a review on April 27th. So please be on the lookout for those lessons as we start distance learning. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or call me or text me. You have my number and my email address. I hope this helps, and I'll see you next time. Bye.